For line trading, going over today's SPY recap and live analysis. So first thing that I explained in the pre-market brief for Discord members was to be watching that 20-day moving average along with the yellow and blue algorithms. Now, like I explained in yesterday's video and right here, how you have to be watching for this trap right here that is forming, and you see how we form this inverse head and shoulder off of it right here and try and close this cup. Now, after this right here, we do not see a handle, which is why there is another trap right here. You never see this form, and we never get this 5-day retest or the retest of this 555 level, but there is another trap back off of this 20-day moving average, which was right around this level right here. And you see how we form this head and shoulder right here. We close this inverse cup and we get that move down within that orange selling continuation that we were looking for if you were trying to take the trade early in the morning right here. Now, like I was explaining to members later in the day, you cannot be married to one side. You cannot have an intraday bias. If the structure changes, then you have to be able to change which way you are trading it and be able to flip once you see the confirmations, right? And that is going to be where the money is made, by being able to scalp when the conditions change. So let me show you here on the 1-minute chart what I mean, and then we will get into the more in-depth parts of it. So, for example, this 20-day moving average was right around this area right here. So in the morning, we had this first move off of it right here, which was a good trade. There was some news at this 10 a.m. candle, but we get this first move up. Now, right here, if you're looking to short the 20-day moving average again, you want to see this inverse cup close, want to see this handle, and then from there, see the dump down. But instead, we form support back off of that 20-day moving average, and you see how you could have taken an entry right here. Now, it is a little bit more risky of one. You could have waited for us to grab this shoulder right here, and this is a good 70-80 cent trade right there. Now, at this point, right, you should be protecting your trade. I don't know why you wouldn't after a nice move up like that, because what you have to understand is we're getting close to closing that cup, and we came just a bit short. I wanted to see around 554, but that was okay because it showed you right here that you can see there was no handle for any continuation, and we start to see how we have this tapering white algorithm right here, and you see how we form this head and shoulder. You're watching to see this liquidity right here, this same liquidity here, and you see how we form that inverse cup. There is this handle, and then there is this head and shoulder, and then we break back below that 20-day moving average, and this is where it changes now, because you can see we form this larger inverse cup. We once again have this handle, and then from there is that head and shoulder, and then from there on the way down we continue to form the same thing right here. You see this head and shoulder, you see that inverse cup and handle within the white algorithm, so several entries on the way down. So after this move down right here, I start to explain that if you are looking for a reversal, you do need to see us close this cup back at 550. And if that happens, then from there you can be looking for some sort of continuation to the upside. So it takes some time. We don't do this immediately, but you will see how it plays out in just a minute. But you can see right here that we are trying to form this flag still. You can see that we have this white algorithm still working right here, but we're just not really getting any breakdown. You see that there's no breakdown right here. We close this inverse cup. We try and form this handle right here, and there is a slight bit of a move, and this ended up being the low. So after this lousy breakdown right here and it reversing back above this level, I explained that you had to be watching this on the 30-minute chart. You could see us start to build another head and shoulder right here within this green algorithm, or we could start to see that reverse that I explained back to 550, that cup. So you see how we close that cup back at 550, and there is a slight push above. So once again, another scalp that you could have taken off of this level, and then I will explain how this once again came back to the downside and how you could have caught this as well. So at this point right here, I'm explaining if you are still looking to short this and we're possibly forming this right here, well, you can watch for that, but what do you need to see? You have to have this handle right here to confirm that breakdown and continue filling the gap. Now, after that, we're not fully convinced just because we have a few green candles yet. As I explained, you need to see this start to close right here at that 550, which ends up happening, but it takes quite some time, and you have to understand what's going on here. So as I explained with this red algorithm right here, as it can show that weakness and tapering, if you were taking, maybe scalps right here off of these head and shoulders, well, that is fine as well. You can take those, but you have to understand this larger move needs this inverse cup to close back at this level, and we need to lose right here, which you can see is where we formed support and ended up heading back up. So at this point, right, you need to see this handle below that level. Maybe right here again, right, we form another head and shoulder as well, and then you see us head down and attack that gap. Now at this point right here, you do not have to take this entry, but once you see this cup close right here, and you see that controlled selling and this inverse head and shoulder, that could have been a great entry. I was stopped out of my runners around this point, and I called it a day. As you can see on the 30-minute chart, right, we do not form what we need to right here. We never form this head and shoulder and never get that continuation still within this orange. So with that cup that closes at 550 right here, as I'm explaining, you need to be seeing this handle starting to form. There is this smaller one for a quick move up right here, 50-60 cent scalp to this level right here where you would have had to been protecting by. But I'm also explaining that if we can form a larger one, right, we can look for the cup to close back to that 20-day moving average that was up here. And we attempted to build it right here with this larger controlled selling, trying to flag. And you see how there are these entries. Once again, another move up right here. You see that cup and this handle, all of that within there. Now, right here is another example of why you cannot be married to one side and you have to trade as the structure demands. So you see this inverse head and shoulder that forms. Say you get this move up, you would have protected some, but at this point right here, where you see us getting back below this shoulder, you see these red candles, well, you would have needed to be stopped out, right? You would have had to not been holding through that, just thinking that we are going to continue to this 20-day moving average now, no matter what. So once we close this inverse cup right here, back to that 550 level, you see how we form this handle within the white, and there is this head and shoulder entry right there. And look at this beautiful trade to the downside right here. So you see the possibility of being able to catch these both ways. You could have taken this scalp to the upside, right? Taken some profits, maybe been stopped out on some runners below the shoulder, and then waited for that inverse cup and took another trade to the downside, which would have been a way better trade than just this right here. But that is what happens when you get involved. You don't necessarily know that this is going to happen right here, but if you give yourself the opportunity to be involved, that is what you get rewarded with. But at this point, right, we close this inverse cup and we lack this handle right here for continuation once again to close at this level, and then maybe we see right another one for an end of day dump. Now at this point right here, you see us maybe possibly trying to grab this liquidity, closing this cup, and maybe getting an end of day squeeze like we sometimes see, but we are unable to form that shoulder. We never form any handle or anything like this and get that final move, and we get this rejection back off that 550. But right here, there is just no continuation, right? There is some sort of head and shoulder, but we run out of time right here and never get to see if we head back down. So now it is time to go over what to be watching for tomorrow. You can see here at the end of the day, I was explaining how these 5 and 20-day moving averages are going to come into play tomorrow and a big move can form off them. So what I mean by that is with this 5-day catching up with this 20, if we want to form this going into tomorrow, we have this liquidity on the way up right here and we can form something like this, gaining back that 20-day moving average. And then ultimately, if we break through that 5-day again, we can start to close this larger cut back to that 555 level. Now, tomorrow is the big news for the week, so we will most likely not be opening where we close and have a gap up or gap down. So in the case that we do have a gap up, and maybe that is a fake out still, right? You can look for the 20 moving average to become a resistance, and then we have this liquidity off this shoulder right here in the case that we do ultimately want to fill the rest of that gap down to 545, right? Now, in the case that we open down and we close the gap, well, then you can be looking for us to head back up off of this shoulder right here if we do see a reversal like that, and then close that cup at the 20. From there, start to see something like this, and then so on. So there's a bunch of possibilities tomorrow. You just have to be able to understand what is going on and not be biased. If you're biased, it'll kill you, and you just have to understand how to play the structure. So now taking a look at the daily chart here, we are now closed below the 20 and 5-day. So we absolutely can head down if we would like to, and the news supports that tomorrow. First thing we'll look for, right, is the close of that gap. And then if we close the gap and continue to go, well, that is a possibility as well. Or tomorrow we see this 20-day be that support and we get a move back up through that 5 and 20-day moving average, right? You can see right here how that happens. You can see it right here. So just be paying attention to that as you can see something like that form. But we are still within this range right here, as you can see, and we have not got that decision. But that will do it for tonight's video. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see members in the morning.